Hi everyone, Aaron here for Zollotech, and the iPhone 8 Plus has been out for a while, and I wanted to help you decide whether or not you should buy it today. Now, it has come down in price a little bit, but not as much as you may have thought. But we're going to talk about the price, how it's held up, its design, and show how it compares to the latest devices as far as speed. So the first thing is price. It comes in at $699 for 64 gigabytes or $849 for 256 gigabytes. It still comes in silver, gold, and space gray, just like this one, and they all have a pretty nice look to them. The design is classic at this point, and this is kind of a perfection of what we had with all of the other designs as far as this square or rectangular display. You've got larger bezels, Touch ID, an aluminum frame with glass front and back, and this aluminum around the edge is really nice. It's high quality, and on the bottom, of course, we've got our lightning connector, our speaker and microphone. On this side, your power sleep wake and SIM card. On the top, nothing at all, and then on this side, your silent switch and volume buttons. Now on the back, of course, you've got your camera and a glass back that allows for wireless charging. So it's a really nice phone overall. It feels great in the hand, and this one in particular is held up well. Without using it with a case or anything like that for quite some time, it has minimal scratches or anything like that on it, and it's just a really durable, high-quality phone. And this particular design is something that I really like, and what you've got here is a 5.5-inch LCD display. It's a Retina HD display, and it's 1920 by 1080 or 1080p with 401 pixels per inch. It also has 3D touch on it, so that part's nice. You've got all the modern features, of course, with it, and it looks great from just about any angle. Apple makes some of the best LCDs on the market, if not the best, and it just looks great overall. Now, of course, internally, we've got the Apple A11 Bionic chip, and this chip in some ways may be a little bit faster to process certain tasks or ramp up to full power. So in opening certain applications and loading, compared to the newer A12 Bionic, it's actually a little bit faster sometimes. Now, of course, we have Touch ID, which is really nice and fast and works well. And compared to Face ID, it's actually a little bit faster in many ways. So here's a 10s Max, and if I just tap the screen, you have to swipe up. It's a two-step process where with this, you just press your thumb on it and it unlocks. Here, you can lift it up, look at it, and swipe up, and it's sort of a two-step process. So let's do the same thing. And it's similar, but it is sort of feels like an extra step from time to time. Maybe they'll change that in the future. Now, the battery life of the 8 Plus is quite good, and over time, it seems to get consistent battery life of about 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. This one, of course, I haven't been using this one regularly, and it's held up well. We're at 99% battery health after over a year of use, and it's quite good. Like I said, 6 to 7 hours of screen on time. You can expect it to last all day long for most people, and it's got this nice big display with stereo speakers. So you do have this as a speaker and this one here, but it's not as good as today's phones where it's a little bit of a wider and more even sound when you're watching a video. Of course, because it's a Plus phone, you get this landscape mode when you're in iOS 12's home screen, and it's quite nice. You don't get that on a 10s Max. And the cameras hold up well also. So you've got dual 12 megapixel cameras, you've got an f1.8 wide angle and an f2.8 telephoto lens, and they both record up to 4K 60p as far as video is concerned. And quite honestly, this is a very, very good video camera compared to anything out there. In anything I've tested, it will beat any Android phone, and it will even beat certain iPhones. In fact, I've used this particular phone to record some of my videos for this channel, and you probably wouldn't know the difference between this and the GH5 or the Canon C200 that I use unless you knew exactly what to look for when you're outdoors in really well-lit areas. Now, if you're indoors and it's not well lit, you may notice a difference there. Now, there's a few things that you don't get with this particular device. You don't get Face ID, of course, like I mentioned. You also don't get Animoji because you don't have that true depth sensor and the forward-facing portrait mode. You do get the portrait mode with the rear camera, but not the front camera because you don't have that true depth sensor. You also don't get gigabit LTE, which really isn't that big of a deal because I don't know any areas that actually have gigabit LTE. It's few and far between, and most carriers aren't even pushing that amount of bandwidth. And then, of course, you don't get an OLED display, and that's good and bad for some. If you're like me, and about 1 in 10 people, OLED can bother your eyes and even make you feel nauseated at times or give you headaches. And for some people, that's a concern. And I know a lot of people that have actually returned their 10S or messaged me and said they've returned their 10S, 10S Max, or 10 to get an LCD, this or the 10R, which is its main competitor. So with its price range and everything, you may want to consider a 10R if you really have to have that Face ID and true depth sensor, or this does just fine for that. Now, I wanted to show you a quick speed comparison between the two because that's the big difference between last year and this year, at least according to Apple on paper, is that A11 versus the A12. So let me show you something I've shown in many other videos as far as a speed comparison next to the 10S Max. So let's slide over, we'll open Minecraft, and this application is a good representation of something that takes a little bit of processing power and does not take a ton. You'll see it actually loaded a little bit faster on the 8 Plus there. We'll hit play, create new world, and then we'll hit create. And we'll see how long it takes to actually load this. In many tests, I've found that it loads a little bit faster, maybe a second or two faster on the older devices. And I don't know if that's, like I mentioned, with the processor, time to ramp up to the full speed or not. They're both smooth after they load, but it's just that initial load time that's actually a little bit different. And then one of the other tests I like to run as well has to do with compressing 4K video. That usually taxes the processor and encoders the most. So let me open iMovie. Now what I have here is iMovie with the same exact 4K video recorded from an iPhone. So you'll see if I zip through here, it's the same video, same length, although you just need to expand it out so you can get that same length or make it look the same, but 1 minute and 14 seconds. And what we'll do is we'll encode it to 4K and see how long it takes. Now on a MacBook Pro, it's 1 minute and 14 seconds. Usually it'll take about 1 minute and 14 seconds, give or take, depending what you're doing. So we'll share it, we'll hit save. Let me get a stopwatch here. Now I have a stopwatch ready. Let me select 4K and start, and we'll see how long it takes. And again, in most tests I've seen, the older phones actually encode a little bit faster, the exact same file. So we'll wait for it just a moment and see what it does. Now you'll see they're just about done. We'll give it a few more seconds, and it completed a couple seconds, maybe 1 second or even a half a second faster on the 8 Plus as compared to the 10S Max. So this is what I've found in most tests. I don't know why that is, but they're so close that it's really not worth worrying about whether or not the older phones are faster. And that hopefully will help you make your decision as to whether or not you should pick up this phone. If your only reservation is maybe speed, I wouldn't worry about it. I would expect Apple to support iOS on it for quite some time, as they have on the other ones. And you saw it was a little stuttery there, and that was iOS 12, but they'll update this. And of course, I wouldn't expect it to slow down. I would just expect it to get all the updates, at least for a few more years, and not have to worry about that whatsoever. So hopefully that helps you decide, and let me know what you think about the 8 Plus in the comments below. I still think it's a great phone, and I think Touch ID is still something that's great. I miss it often, quite honestly, and Face ID, I personally could live without Face ID, but either way, either one is good. But let me know your thoughts in the comments below. If you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe and like. I'll link the wallpaper in the description below so you can try it out for yourself as well. As always, thanks for watching. This is Aaron. I'll see you next time.